I'm Ros Bandt and I'm here in Melbourne and thinking about you all in Hania and wishing you all a wonderful time for the European Day of Jewish Culture on September the 4th, 2016. In my music room I have the poster here and I feel very honoured to have been part of the beautiful Etz Hayyim community in Hania. And when we first went there, my partner Arthur McDevitt and I in 2010, we were staying in Hania in Greece for a year, and on my former trips I'd always wanted to go to the synagogue and it had always been closed. But this time it was open and Alex took us around on a tour and we noticed this horrendous clipping on the door that said that the Etz Hayyim had suffered 2 arson attacks just pretty well before we got there. And I was very concerned about this, and he said, well, why don't you come along on Friday night together and to the service and we can all have a chat. And there I was very honoured to meet Nikos Stavroulakis, who was leading the service and who made an appeal about how fragile the community was there and how we somehow needed to give him some kind of a statement to make that community really present in some way. And so I guess I just felt quite moved, and being a sound artist, what could I give as an Australian not being part of that community? But I was listening, and I was listening to all the people there, and I thought this is an amazing story here in this building, how it's been reconstructed, and of course the beautiful book about the story of that. The Etz Hayyim Synagogue commemorative album I was able to look at in the bookshop, and during that year I was lucky enough to even learn Hebrew and go to lectures and understand the immensity of this beautiful culture. So the simplest thing for me to do was to use my musical talent, I suppose, and I just offered to record any stories or anything that might be useful and maybe start a little sound archive for the library, since so much of the digital data and archiving equipment had been lost in the arson attacks. And I was very concerned after all the amazing research and documentation that Hania had logged on the computer, and that was all gone and there was nothing. I just, as a digital artist, found that really quite horrendous. So I set upon to just collect stories from the people there, and everyone was so nice and friendly. And so over the next 6 months, and I see on this little score, I collected the stories from what people could remember of their dear association with this community and what the synagogue might have meant for them, actually answering the questions that Nikos really asked us to answer. And people came and were recorded in the synagogue and surrounds. Aruva and Amalia, Hania and Alex and David and Angelica and Marie-Therese, Konstantinos, Roger, Nikos, Nikolai, Lorenzo, with his singing group, Marianne, who is writing a beautiful novel, Besnik, the wonderful caretaker, and all these amazing people that I met. And over various weeks and months, quite a large archive came about of these stories, and I thought what to do, and then I heard all of the musical parts. So there wasn't just the stories, there was the music and the sounds of the building. And Gabriel Negrin, who was to become a very dear friend of mine through our electroacoustic interests and our recorder interests, and we ended up giving a benefit concert for the Etz Hayyim. He was in there praying one night and singing before the Shabbat, and it was such the most beautiful sound outside the gate. Walking that sound wafting through the beautiful courtyard was one of the most divine sounds I have ever heard. And so we became amazingly good friends, and he shared his Sephardic music upbringing, and I had studied that with my early music ensemble, and there were so many things on so many levels: the food, the culture, the beautiful garden, the architectural renovation of the site. There's so much to appreciate in Etz Hayyim. And I wanted to embroider this into a sonic composition. So I've got in front of me this list of all the sound files that I made over that period, and there were lots of ensembles that we recorded. We all got together with a singing group and we sung Ladino songs, the Cavritos, and we recorded them. And I recorded the Purim and Tu B'Shuvot and visitors coming to the garden and talking, and the Hebrew class that some of us were involved with Nikos, and it was amazing. And of course the really important ritual use of water throughout the synagogue, both in the outside courtyard and in the ritual bath and during the service. Water is so important for life. And of course we have the beautiful poster from the Etz Hayyim that Nikos designed, and I'm thinking now of how special it is for me to sit here on this mat that was bought right opposite the Teresa in Hania, and to have the Etz Hayyim here in Australia with me to appreciate these European days of Jewish culture, that the European Jewish culture spreads far and wide in the diaspora too. And so here we are in Australia. This is the instrument that I play on the new CD that we've just launched in Hania. This is a tahu. It's a bowed spike fiddle, and in it I am tracking the inside resonance of Gabriel Negrin's playing the shofar from the Etz Hayyim Synagogue. You can see him there in this photograph, and there's the track from the shofar on the new double CD of this beautiful instrument, which I've been working and studying and experimenting with in Hania. And I think that the synagogue and me playing my first performances in the Etz Hayyim, and to now, 10 years later, be working with this CD with Gabriel on the shofar from the Etz Hayyim, and me tracking around inside this beautiful instrument, this wind instrument. So this piece is rather, the piece that we made is quite disturbing. It's a call and a plea to kind of bless everyone that has suffered or been dispossessed of their homeland. And so this is from the shofar. It's on the Tahu Connections, Syndesis Connections, which we've just launched in Hania. And I guess we both really wish we were still back there with you for this marvellous event. So we'll have to enjoy each other's company online.